Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. In today's episode, it's going to be a New Year's kind of a special episode. I joined with Katie, and Katie has Crohn's, and uh, we're going to be speaking about our journeys. Katie's going to be speaking a little bit about hers as well. So, Katie, it's great to have you on. I know this is your first podcast, so it's good that you're on mine, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you mind introducing yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so my name is Katie. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in the summertime, not that long ago, but I did have symptoms of Crohn's disease for about 2 years before I was diagnosed, which I feel is quite common with a lot of people. It takes a very long time, unfortunately, to get diagnosed these days. So that's what happened to me. I knew I had Crohn's disease for a really long time. I'd spoken with my doctors about it for a really long time, and I had just about every symptom you could possibly have of having Crohn's disease. So I knew that there was a big potential for the diagnosis to come back as Crohn's disease. So I think that made it easier for me when I was going for colonoscopies and things like that, is because the worry for me wasn't that I was going to hear, oh, you've got Crohn's. It was that they would not be able to find what I needed to find to get help. So I was actually very relieved to hear that I finally had a diagnosis and I could start medication and things like that. But the whole process to being diagnosed not long ago was really, really long and really tough.
Yeah, I think the diagnosis stage is really annoying. Because like
Yeah.
for you, like it take ages, and like you feel like you have had it for a while. So I guess you knew about Crohn's before you was diagnosed a little bit then. Um,
Yeah, I'd done my own research, which probably is never the best thing to do. Wouldn't recommend. Dr. Google is not helpful in types of situations. So I knew a lot about. I probably knew too much, really, than what I needed to know at the time. Because a lot of the stuff that I'd scare myself into, a lot of the stuff that I Googled, I haven't experienced yet. So a lot of that was unnecessary. But I, I knew enough to not be afraid of what was coming next, because if I was experiencing something, I knew that I could put it down to my Crohn's disease rather than, oh gosh, is it something new? Do I have something else to worry about? So yes, I knew quite a bit.
that that is good in a way though, because like you kind of, I guess, prepared yourself a little bit beforehand.
Yeah, yeah, which is important to do, but um, obviously you do need to be careful because there is a lot out there. I feel in general there's a lot on the internet, on social media, and things like that that can be quite scary and quite intimidating, especially if you're not even diagnosed yet. You don't even know what route you're going to be going down. Um, and so I would say be careful if you're fishing around in too many places that don't really have very accurate sources.
Yeah, it is hard because like you say, I think even though I did I guess I was the opposite. I didn't know anything about it, but
Yeah, it's
um
also very reassuring.
yeah, yeah, I guess either way is not good anyway. Like it's not good to read about beforehand. It's not good to not know anything. So yeah, it's pretty hard. But I with getting diagnosed, like as soon as I was diagnosed, like you go on Google, don't you, and then you type
Yeah,
what is Crohn's disease, and then
yeah,
like the two main suspects come up, like
yeah,
surgery and stuff like that, and
yeah.
so
I think one thing that really, really scared me is that one of the first things I saw was 8 out of 10 people who have Crohn's disease will have surgery in their lifetime. And I thought, well, surgery for what? Like, what would I need surgery on? Like, that as a statistic, when you don't have any other information on that, is very intimidating. Like, you can take it as it comes, one step at a time. And I have had surgeries now, not anything life changing, just investigative life surgeries. But I still felt like, oh my gosh, well, that's quite a high number. That's going to be me. What am I going to be having removed? What's going to be done? Like, why would I need surgery? When? Does that mean it's going to get worse? Like, surely if it's just going to get worse and I'm going to need surgery. And I think that, like, seeing things like that, those are the types of stats and stuff that are put out into the world to show people who don't have Crohn's disease what it's like, and show that actually how scary and how serious it can be. But I think, like, from the other side of things, if you're being newly diagnosed and you're seeing things like that, you're like, it is going to send you into panic mode. And for me, I found it really difficult to differentiate between looking at things from a perspective of somebody who's got Crohn's disease, and looking at it from a perspective of, you know, what's out there to try and just inform people who don't have it, to how serious it is and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, it is tough, because like it's hard to kind of just see what like with the diagnosis. I think it's one of the best parts. I think as well. Like it gets easier after you get diagnosed, I think. But it's pretty hard at the start, even if you don't or you
Yeah,
do know. But once you get past that, I guess things start to get easier. Um,
yeah,
Even if you've had surgery, which like it's scary. Like you say, you see that Crohn's. Like if you have Crohn's, you're quite likely in your lifetime to have surgery if you're diagnosed maybe around our age. It's not great, but the good thing is, I guess we look at things as ha we see things as they are, I think, as well.
yeah,
But yeah, so you was diagnosed, was it this summer, just gone?
yeah.
Yeah, so not long.
No, not long really at all. But beforehand, I was in hospital 3 times leading up to that, and this all started when it started to get really, like, I was dangerously ill, was probably the beginning of this year. Sort of February time is when I started to really, I just couldn't deal with my symptoms from home anymore. And that's when the push for getting diagnosed was like a lot faster, and I started to really push to try and get diagnosed, because it was just becoming something that I couldn't maintain at home. So I was constantly in the hospital, and I was having infection after infection, and I was just in and out of the hospital so much. And with every admission I was getting more poorly, because the hospital was making me more poorly in a way, where I couldn't eat or look after myself properly. And so I think that at that point, that's when things started to sort of get pushed along a little bit faster. But it still took 3 hospital admissions for somebody to be able to say, like, we really need to get a wiggle on with getting her diagnosed. And I wish so much that it hadn't taken that long, because I think that those 3 admissions were like quite life changing for me.
Yeah, yeah, it's really hard, and I think when you do, like, a lot of things happen before you get diagnosed. Like it's not easy. Like to get
No, you're
um
not.
like things happen months in advance. Like I was saying, like I was diagnosed in October of 2017, and at months in advance, you could see the difference, maybe in like, because main one for me was like weight loss, and I wasn't eating anything, and then the sooner it was coming, so soon October came, end of September kind of time, I I had pain got really bad, and I had to go into hospital and stuff. So uh, until it's hard because that I guess doctors and people at hospital like put you aside, so like, and if they don't think anything's wrong, but you. You kind of think to yourself, we wouldn't be here. I would much prefer being at home, relaxing, watching Netflix and stuff like that, and then coming into hospital.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I felt as well. And especially on the second or third time I was visiting, I thought I couldn't think of anything worse. I really couldn't. So I ended up letting myself get to the point where I I couldn't even take myself in there. You know, somebody else had to because I was so ill, but I just really didn't want to have to go back in there and experience all those things again, over and over again. And I feel like with anybody that I know who has a chronic illness, be that Crohn's and colitis or endometriosis or anything really, especially autoimmune conditions, it's just the process of trying to be diagnosed, especially at the moment with the NHS, is just absolutely awful, and it takes an incredibly long time. And I mean, somebody who's experiencing like really serious symptoms that are making them really poorly, it's not really safe for them to be waiting you know, 6, 7, 8 months for a colonoscopy to try and be diagnosed. Like, those 6 months is like a huge amount of time when you're unwell. That is like a crazy amount of time, like to lose weight, to just get worse because it's untreated and active disease, and just really feel like you're just, is it ever going to get better? You start telling yourself, because you're like, well, you know, it's this, I'm waiting so long for all of these things, and you really work yourself up to it, and it can just make you feel really, really in a scary place, like you're just never going to be getting any better. And I think that if we had access to like the right resources and like tests, and the whole process of being diagnosed was sped up, I think that lots of people wouldn't need to be admitted to hospital and things like that, because they would be on the right medication a lot sooner.
Yeah, it's not good. Like the like if it's still happening now, like I it like I nearly had surgery when I was diagnosed because they told me that I had to wait like 3 or 4 months to get an appointment to come in, and I said I won't be lasting that long.
No.
I try and not go to hospital. Like
Yeah.
like the pain at the time when it was getting really bad was like a burny sensation in
Yeah.
stomach. And I was in last year of school. I was so year 11, and it was the exam season as well.
Oh.
Um and I was
Yeah.
in my year at this school I was at. The school I was at, I was in a drama class, and they had only about 6 of us from the year was chosen because the exam of the drama changed. It was more English than drama, so you do more writing and acting. So it come to a point where I couldn't come in anymore because I can't act, and I can't act and well, I feel like sometimes acting with not telling people my pain because they couldn't do anything anyway.
I
But
didn't. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and even if I was if I was in class and I was doing writing, I would hold one hand on my stomach where the pain is, even though that wouldn't have done anything. Me holding it's not going to impact it at all.
No,
Um,
but
yeah, and then as soon as like teacher says that, teacher says, do you want to go to the library and do your work? And I said no. And the reason I said no was because I don't. Every time I went in the library, not just me, anyone, if they were just going to sit there or something, because the printer's in the library, each teacher will come in and ask you a question and say, "Oh, why are you here? Why are you not in class?" and stuff like that. And I don't
yeah.
have the energy to respond, and I don't want to respond in a nasty way because, um, like I guess I get annoyed anyway, just getting asked why am I here
Yeah.
anyway. But on top of that, so I
Yeah.
didn't, and then a teacher also said, "Do you want to go and get some paracetamol?" Downstairs, and I said I would love to, but it won't help, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah, it doesn't.
no, and and then I had to. The school was understanding because I didn't know what was happening at the same time as anyone else. So
Mm.
I was in hospital for a little bit. I fighted to get the appointment, so I haven't had surgery since I've had Crohn. So I was able to have the colonoscopy earlier, and what happened was I did that, and that I heard. It's quite funny when I was diagnosed because I'm sedated, but I can hear little bits as well. So when I'm doing the colonoscopy, I hear like the consultant say, Crohn's. It's Crohn's, and I've never heard the word Crohn's in my life at this point. And then
Yeah.
and then I go out. I say to my mum, I say I've got Crohn's, and then and then the consultant comes out shortly after, says you've got Crohn's, and I don't know what this was. At first, I thought it was an illness bug. Is it an illness bug or something? I just thought it was something like that, and then you find out what it is more. But it's hard because we shouldn't have to fight to get these
No,
appointments and stuff.
no, I completely agree. Yeah, that sounds very different to my diagnosing process, but that is really, really tough. Like, especially if you're the first time that you're hearing about it is when you're being diagnosed. I can't imagine that. That's terrifying.
Yeah, like in my family, like a lot of people have like that, maybe not alive, like down the family tree, I guess, or like have bowel disease or stuff like that. So maybe it's because of that. But yeah, it was hard because I just got like they just hand you a leaflet. You go to the room, and then I guess they don't really tell you much about it at all. Like they just give you the leaflet to read through, and then they just tell you to go home, and then they put you on steroids. For the time being, and then eventually I did go on a in those suppressants medication. So which is very hard to be on.
Do you find that you're in a better place now that you're on those, though?
Yeah, better than I was at the very start, like
Yeah.
when I was diagnosed. But if because COVID, well, when COVID hit, and still people can get COVID now, it's I guess it's harder, I guess now because you're on medication that dampens your immune system, and you don't really have much of an immune system being on certain medication.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. Like, how would you say you're doing? Are you doing better than you was?
Yeah, a lot better, like so much better. Because the problem for me was when I was diagnosed, I didn't the only symptom which I didn't really have is the most common one, which is pain in your stomach.
Okay.
I really didn't experience that, not very often at all. So that was why I think it was very difficult for me to be diagnosed, is because they would say, "Where's the pain?" And I would say, "Well, it doesn't hurt my tummy at all, really." I had Crohn's presented everywhere else apart from really in my colon or small bowel. So it was in my mouth. It was really sore. It was all down my throat, so it was really difficult to swallow, really swollen, and things like that. And that for me was why it was so difficult to try and get that diagnosis. I was also like constantly in and out of the hospital, and constantly having infections. So for me now, it's like I am a lot better because I'm not having infections and things like that, which is what I was trying to avoid. But I just feel like it's hard for me to tell what better is, because the only thing I'm trying to avoid is those constant reoccurring infections, which I have kept off for a while. So I consider that better. But I just and my blood results and things like that tell me that I'm better. But I think especially with something like Crohn's, it's just dealing with what comes next. It's just like, okay, every day is going to be something new. It could present itself in a different way. You just have to deal with whatever comes next, really.
Yeah, I'm like that. Like you just try and live your best life, but when these things happen, you kind of take a step back, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's just about sort of in general, I mean, you could be feeling better, but the way that it affects your life is just different. Like it was affecting my life in a completely different way when I was really poorly and in hospital and couldn't eat and stuff. But now it affects my life in a different way, which is still not nice, but it's a lot better. Like I would take this and the anxiety and the other things that come with the chronic illness over, constantly being in hospital and feeling like there's no way out. So I just think that like you learn to deal with what comes at that time. Like I wasn't that anxious really in the first stages of being diagnosed. I wasn't really that bothered or worried about all of the symptoms I was feeling until I started to get really, really bad. And I think then I just had to try and learn with all of the anxiety that came with feeling ill and what would come next and the unknown.
Yeah, it is like you just got to deal with it, I guess, in your
Yeah.
own kind of way. Like I couldn't eat as well. Like it went on, and then when I was losing the weight, and I couldn't eat as well, and it wasn't very good. Like I could eat chicken a little bit.
Yeah.
I couldn't really eat whole meals. I was put on the liquid drinks, which I didn't like either, so I
Yeah,
didn't
me
like
too.
them.
Did you have the modular diet, the liquid diet?
Yeah, yeah, I was put on those
Yeah.
the different flavor ones.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, I think there were
I,
different flavors.
I myself was put on the modular liquid diet, which I know a lot of people who have Crohn's disease are, and it just didn't agree with me. It made me really sick.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I had loads of those drinks in the cupboard. Um,
Yeah, I do too. I still have loads of them, really.
yeah, and then
Grateful to not need them as much now. Don't know about you. They're not very nice. They don't taste very good. It's not
yeah,
really a dinner.
yeah, I had other people think like who didn't have Crohn's actually had them, and I said they liked them, and I said okay, yeah, you can have them.
They're not the best, especially when you're constantly feeling so nauseous when you haven't got anything to line your stomach.
Yeah, like it was annoying and hard when you had a meal that you would like you would eat
Yeah.
in an okay sense, but it makes you just full. It made me full if I did eat anything and in
Yeah,
pain.
me too. I remember when I was in the hospital and I woke up and I said to my sister, "Oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. I could eat anything." And she said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I would like some chicken from McDonald's and I would like some fries." And I remember she brought me them down to the hospital. And I think I ate two chips and then I was just like, I'm going to be sick. Like, I just can't eat any of this at all. And I immediately just felt so full, even though there was nothing in my stomach. And I just couldn't eat it. And I was so devastated because that was what I was really craving. And it's like, it doesn't take away those cravings for the food, but it's just very difficult because you can't really eat it.
Definitely. Is there anything like you have to like avoid to eat now? Or
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't eat things like McDonald's. I've tried time again. I always test the waters a little bit and think, oh, wonder if I'll be okay with that now. And I never am. I can't have really fast food at all. There's ones that disagree with me more than others for sure. But it's
mm,
mostly fast food that I never have because it doesn't agree with me. And then sometimes at random times during my cycle of like between infusions, sometimes I can't have things like processed meat like salami and pepperoni, things like that. That doesn't agree with me at all. I'm very lucky because I'm okay with most fruit and veg. And obviously that is like what you mainly need really to make sure that you're getting the right nutrients. So for me, the one thing that I always lack is protein. I can have chicken and I can have fish, so that really helps, and I can have egg. But like if I'm like really craving stuff that has protein in, like all different kinds of meats and things like that, or like sausages, which I don't really agree with me, then I miss out on those types of things. So I always find that I lack a little bit of protein, and that can make it difficult for like energy and things like that. And like, especially putting on muscle after you lose a lot of weight if you're not getting enough protein. So for me, that's the biggest thing. Whereas I know for a lot of people, it can be that they can't have certain fruit and veg. Or they have to take the skin off of it because it doesn't agree with them. So for me, it would mostly be meats, which is okay. It's not too bad, really. I mean, the vegetarians survive, so so will I.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I guess for me that I can't have spicy food. I can't have anything really
Oh
spicy.
yeah, no, that's not great for me either.
Yeah. Which is annoying because I like before I was diagnosed, I would always like having kebabs. Not all the time, but like every once in a while as like a treat.
Yeah.
And I would put the chili sauce all over it. I'll put all over it, and I like the feeling of having the drink every 5 seconds. But if I did have it, I would just maybe dip a few chips in or something.
Yeah, definitely. The first time I went into a flare up was because of a kebab.
Yeah.
That was the last thing I ate, and that was my first ever flare. It was a kebab that sent me into a flare. And I thought it was food poisoning at the time, because obviously you would. I thought, oh, I've got food poisoning. Like I'm on the toilet 16 times a day. And then I realised quite quickly that food poisoning wasn't going away. And then I realised that I had gone into my first ever flare from a kebab.
It's not good. It's not good. But like you say about McDonald's, I would say McDonald's isn't the best fast food anyway. I don't think it's that nice.
No,
really.
no, not really. Definitely not. It's not something that I really feel like I'm missing out too much on, to be honest. And I can still eat their fries, and they were always my favourite. It's just any of their meats and stuff that really, no, definitely not.
Yeah, like if I did, I like them McFlurries. I like their ice cream.
Yes, their ice cream is good. I reckon I could still eat their ice cream. I reckon I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, but I don't like the chips. I like they're too salty to eat.
They're really, really quite salty. You need a big drink afterwards.
Definitely. And with KFC, I don't. They've changed how they do things. I don't mind their chicken. Actually, I do quite like the chicken. But like yeah. I do like the popcorn chicken at KFC.
I do too. Yeah, that's probably my favorite actually. I don't know if KFC really agrees with me, but sometimes I just risk it because I enjoy it so much.
Yeah. Their chips are better. Their chips are better, but I think Burger King's are better. Burger King chips are better than KFC chips and McDonald's chips.
Yeah, all fast food is something that is strongly missed by a lot of people in the community.
Yeah, it's not great. Like if I ever had a Chinese, I can't eat the chicken. Like I like the garlic chicken, but you know, like the chicken, like the chicken balls that they have all the I guess the fat and like on it. I can't eat any of that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You know the chicken balls, they're like fried, aren't they? Like in a big fat fryer, and sometimes that can like, maybe that's what's disagrees with me as well. Then maybe it's because, you know, like McDonald's chicken nuggets, they're like covered in the batter.
Yeah, I don't like the butter.
That agrees with me. Maybe it's not even the meats. It's hard to tell. I feel like everybody is like, no matter, even if you've been diagnosed for a really long time, I feel like you're always still in that place where you're like, what is it in that meal that I just ate that doesn't agree with me? Like you have to really isolate certain foods to try and figure out which ones don't agree with you. So like for me, I have no idea what it is in the McDonald's that makes me not feel good, but I'm just assuming it's the fact that it's just really greasy and really like the junkiest food you could eat.
Yeah, like I guess it's just it's like I guess you have to like you try new things all the time, I guess, and you know you're good with them, and even so, you might not be like I guess it's like taste buds in a way. Like maybe like a few years down the line, you might be alright. Who knows? Like it might be like that.
Yeah, and I think like for me, I remember I saw a private doctor at a point during being diagnosed, and the most important thing he ever said to me was, the food you're eating cannot cause Crohn's disease, and it cannot cause the active disease to get any worse. So, you know, if you eat something that makes you feel unwell, it doesn't mean that the Crohn's disease is getting worse, because that's not possible. It's an autoimmune disease, so it's your immune system that causes it to get worse. So, he said that the only reason you will feel worse after certain foods is purely symptomatic. It's purely because that particular food has caused your symptoms for a short period of time, hopefully, to flare up and not feel and not make you feel good. But it doesn't mean that it's making your Crohn's worse. And that really helped me, because I remember I used to think, oh my gosh, I've made it so much worse. I'm making the disease worse. I've eaten a chicken nugget and now I'm going to have surgery because I've made it 10 times worse. And then the flare would go down quite shortly afterwards. And I would realize, okay, well, it made me feel unwell. It messed up my stomach, but for a short period of time. And that's helped me to feel more comfortable with trying new things, and not restricting myself to like a really bland diet, because I do want to try new things, because I think it's okay, if I'm at home after I've had a meal, it's okay if I'm feeling a little bit crap afterwards, because I can just stay at home and I don't have anywhere to be, and I could just test it out, and not restrict myself to really bland foods, because I feel like that's not good for your mental health either, or your relationship with food.
Definitely, it's not good that well you've got like I don't agree with like I know some people have like they think it's all diet based. I don't think it is. I think you just go with what you can, go with what like suits you, because it's not going to be all the time. Like I don't have caffeine. Like I'll have stuff with no caffeine in it. So I'll have like coffees, but I have decaf. I have quite a lot of decaf stuff, and I think that helps.
Yeah, caffeine is not great for me either. That's another thing that's not too good. But I love a full fat Coke, so sometimes I take the
Yeah, like this time of year, like I guess you get to celebrate, so you may have to take some. I guess a lot of people do take risks this
yeah.
time of year.
But then also, like in contrast to that, is that you don't want to miss out on things at this time of the year. So you think, oh, will I take a risk, or probably not? Like, if I find that I've eaten something and it's disagreed with me once, at this time of the year, because I've got more plans and things like that, I think, oh, I won't have that. Like, I'll avoid eating that, because I don't want to take the risk right now and then not be able to, be happy and enjoy the time, especially Christmas time with your family. For everybody else, it's all about food, isn't it?
Yeah,
But for you, oh, do I do I want to take that risk, or would I rather just have a good stomach and then be able to actually enjoy the time with my family?
yeah. There is that to it as well. I think. Like you just want to enjoy it, and then I think at the same time you may feel a little left out if everyone else is, I guess, having champagne and you're not. And so it's hard like having a chronic illness, because
It is.
you want to join in and and do stuff, but you have to be
Yeah,
health is more important than I guess being in pain.
but I can also imagine. I have a friend who, I think last Christmas or the one before that, she was on a liquid diet, so she had a feeding tube, and I can imagine that is so much harder. Like, that's a whole new level of hard, because you can't eat a thing. Like, even now, for us and for other people who can try things, it's like, even if we don't want to take any risks, we can still have plain chicken and potatoes and things that we know are quite bland and won't harm us. But for people on the feeding tubes, God, that is really tough. That's something I can't relate to, but I really heavily sympathize with those people at this time of the year, especially because all those smells of the food cooking, and the fact that like the food's bringing everyone together, and you can sort of feel a little bit like you can't be involved with that. And I think all you have to hold on to is the hope that this is doing you so much good that next Christmas you'll be able to really, really thoroughly enjoy it. But it is really tough. I heavily sympathize with those people.
Yeah, I do too. There's so many. Like unlike you, I don't have any experience either, but like
Yeah,
I do feel for all the people that have to go through having a feeding tube.
I do too. I really do. I know that must be really, really tough. And I feel like as part of the community, that's something that actually is really beneficial, is that although we haven't been through everything, I haven't had every surgery that other people have had. Not everybody has had manifestation of Crohn's where I have. Like, we all have our own little different things, but we all are so exposed to those things that we can actually really sympathize with each other. And that's why, no matter what, it doesn't matter if you're having a rare complication of Crohn's, you're still going to be like heavily supported by everybody, which is what's really, really nice.
Yeah, it's really good. Like the community is very supportive. Like there's so many people out there.
Massively, like, that is a game changer. a game changer for anybody going through anything. And not even with Crohn's and colitis, like there's so many communities for so many different things, like, and it is literally so important, because although I am very lucky to have so much support around me, and I'm sure a lot of people are, you know, with friends and family, it's just a different kind of support when it's people who have gone through a similar thing to you.
Definitely. And I like a lot of people when they get diagnosed as well, don't know anyone really. And I think
No, no, I
I
didn't.
I didn't either. And as it's gone on, and I tell like for situations who I need to tell people that I have Crohn's. So it might be at school, it may be uh, um it could be any environment, and they quite a lot of them know what it is, that what they've heard of it, or the common thing will be that they have a friend that has it or know a friend that has Crohn's. So it's getting more knowledge than it ever used to. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, and more people are feeling as though they can talk about it, which is great, because why not talk about it? You know, it's something that needs to be spoken about. You talk about any other disease. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, whether your disease is that you're on the toilet 16 times a day, which I guess is a little bit of a, you know, maybe a hushed topic. I mean, we all go to the toilet, so I always felt like it wasn't something that really needed to be like not spoken about. Like it's really important. And also the fact that so many so many illnesses and so many problems that you have affect your digestive system anyway. Like, it's a really tough thing. It's something that gets affected quite quickly when you're feeling run down. You know, like what happens when you're ill, you have a cold, you lose your appetite. Like, it is just something that is quite common, really, to have like stomach problems when you're not feeling very well and things like that. So a lot of people can relate to it. A lot of people have had problems like that, but the fact that people feel like they can't talk about it is never good.
No, it's hard. Like a certain, because Crohn's disease, there's so much to talk about it, because there's so many different things that like happens to different people, and certain things don't get talked about, like the toilet maybe, being
Yeah,
immunocompromised maybe, because not everyone is, I guess, immunocompromised with Crohn's, because it depends, I guess, what
yeah,
maybe you take. So not everyone is going to be immunocompromised.
yeah.
Um, so like we are, because we take medication that dampens our immune system, but it's very hard to say that to people, because like you'll get maybe people say you're being over the top, like don't worry about it, and stuff like that. So it's very hard.
Yeah, I mean, normally the best way to deal with people who are like that is to just not associate yourself with them. That's what I do. If people don't want to take the time to understand, then that seems to be a little bit of a them problem to me. And I normally just leave it up to them, really. I'm quite good at dealing with things in that way, you know? Like, I feel it can be lonely at first, because you do have to create boundaries with people that don't make you feel accepted for your new life, because it is a new life. But yeah, I find it quite easy to to tell people how I feel about the way that they're behaving towards me, because you know it is ableist. It is, and it's like, you know, whether they think that it is or not, you know, you don't have to understand somebody who has a disability. You don't have to understand. That's a choice if you want to find out more about how they feel and try to understand. But you do have to appreciate and make room in your life for that, and at least try to understand when they're not available for things, it's because they're not feeling very well, and things like that, and just try and be respectful. You know, if you can't understand, at least have some respect, and that's the main thing, really. And I think that lots of people do, and if they're able to listen and learn about it, then they will have respect for it, because they understand how tough it can be, really.
Yeah, it can be really tough. Like because for instances like personal space being one, maybe like even if you're out, like it's hard, because like if you speak to someone that they don't know, so you can't expect them to know, so you explain a little bit, and you know what to do from there, I guess. Like if they
Yeah,
are if they're being all right about it, it's
yeah,
50-50, I guess.
yeah,
um, which is hard, because like I guess they don't want to know your whole life. Do
No,
they like,
exactly. And also, like, you have to think back to before you were diagnosed, would you really have understood? Probably not, because until you've been through something like that, you can't really understand. And so it's not about expecting people to understand, because the problem is they never will.
mm,
And that's okay, but you can still be nice to people who have stuff going on in their life. Like, it's also not even about having a chronic illness. Like, if somebody just was struggling with anxiety or just wasn't really feeling up to it, then I wouldn't put them under pressure to meet up with me, or be social when they're not really feeling it. I just think you should have that. You should make room for that anyway with everybody, whether they have a chronic illness or not. It's all about just having a little bit more um of sympathy for people and what they've got going on. We never really know what people have got going on in their life, so it's not really just about having a chronic illness. If you're anybody and you want to say to somebody, I'm not really feeling up for meeting today, I'm just not really in the right headspace, that's okay. Like, you have every right to do that. I don't use my chronic illness as an excuse, because it's not one. If I don't feel like meeting up with somebody, whether that's my stomach or I'm just not feeling it that day, that's my decision, and that's me putting that first. Whether I have the chronic illness or I don't. If I don't want to be social and I'm not feeling it, then I don't want to, and I won't. And I completely understand people when they're in that position as well.
yeah, it is important that
Yeah.
like you say, like you may just not be up for it, you may be just tired.
Yeah,
And like I think everyone is this time of year. But
absolutely.
yeah,
100%. And also, the fact that I'm immunosuppressed as well um is also not something I use as an excuse, because even if I wasn't, I still don't want to catch people's colds and things like that.
mm,
So I think in general, like, people should still be a bit more open about how they're feeling. Like, if I have a cold and I have an appointment coming up, I will let that person know, oh, I have got a cold, by the way. And I don't do that because, that they're not immunosuppressed, but I do it because I just think in general that's quite respectful to do that.
yeah,
No one wants to catch a cold.
definitely. And it's crazy, like especially at the start of the pandemic when is getting soaps, toilet rolls, and stuff like that, and you think
Yeah,
like
yeah,
um if you're like you should be having that, like you should have soap anyway, and like you should be hygienic and stuff. And I was thinking, and I'll carry soap out anyway. Like if I'm out and about, I'll take so say I'm opening the door, knowing that everyone's touched. I'll take maybe a
yeah.
cloth or a wipe, and
I
I'll
think I'm
open it with
very
that.
Yeah, I've become very aware of that now. Doctor's surgery, or if I hear someone cough and things like that, I become a little bit more. I open doors with elbows and things like that. Like, I don't like to use my hands to touch things. And I think that's the same with a lot of people, though, whether you have a dodgy immune system or not. If especially post COVID, oh, nobody really wants to catch other people's cold and flus and things like that. And lots of people who are vulnerable to it as well. So you don't know who you're spreading it to. Babies, young people, old people, they're all vulnerable to catching these types of things. So you just try to minimize the spread as much as possible, really.
Yeah, it is like that because you got to. Like, I don't like going to doctor surgeries as it is. So what I'd normally do is I'll wait outside till I get called. So I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not waiting inside like with loads of people. If it's empty, I possibly will go in.
Yeah.
Which is quite rare.
Yeah.
uh,
Especially at this time of the year. It's full up.
yeah, yeah. Um, like I had my flu jab not long ago, and I have flu jab every year. Um, and I normally have it at September time, but I had it quite late this year. I guess
Yeah, me
because
too.
everyone wanted it.
Yeah, me too, definitely. I had mine. It was just hard to book in because it was so busy, because everyone needed it, and obviously all the old people need it as well. And I don't think that anybody should take priority over another person. So you just sort of wait your turn and hope for the best. Don't really go out, avoid it until you got the flu jab. And I did have mine, and obviously it was my first year of having it, and I heard a lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, I got really sick from mine, and mine made me really poorly." And I was thinking, "Oh gosh, well, it's better than having the flu, isn't it?"
Yeah, yeah. But I do think like it helps. Like I had a I went to my local pharmacy. I went actually not my local pharmacy because I went to a pharmacy
Yeah,
to have it done this time because but did have to wait like a little while, and then you see people coughing, and then you go
yeah,
away, and then like and then some people don't put their hands on the mouth, and then you think like but and then you wonder why we had a pandemic.
yeah, yeah. I feel I get very. I just get mad at people when they don't do simple things like that. Like, you can't get mad at children and stuff. You know, they're still learning. They don't even understand how diseases spread. But like, in adults as well, I think like it's your responsibility to like cover your child's mouth at least, or like your own. When a fully grown adult is like coughing and they're like just refuse to put their arm, like, just do that. What, they're just coughing into the air. I think, oh god, like, I can wear my mask if it does anything and just hope for the best.
Yeah, all we can do is hope. But if you're put in those situations and you're in the same room, but I think the sneeze, like when people sneeze, is the worst thing. If they don't put their hands on their mouth, they just goes everywhere.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah. But another thing I don't like, I think it's all just being, but like you said before, being respectful and being like polite. It's for example, if you do open the door and someone's behind you, and then you open it for them too, and they don't say thank you, and then they I don't like that. If
No,
that
that is very good.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll say, I think what quite a lot of people would do, like I'll say thank you, like a bit, like they haven't said it, like
Yeah, like a sarcastic way.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I do that sometimes.
yeah. It's funny at the end, but it is quite annoying. When and sometimes they don't even say anything; they still ignore you, as some people do. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
They probably heard you though, that's the main thing.
yeah, yeah. That is the main thing. But like you speaking about McDonald's the earlier, Katie, I had a funny situation because I have a just can't wait card. If you know if you need to go to the toilet in public,
Yeah.
and you use them, and before COVID, I think it was 2019, or I went to an Ed Sheeran concert, and I don't like going those little portable loos, which people go
Oh
to.
god, no, yeah, no.
Yeah. So McDonald's was not that far, so it stopped at the McDonald's, and everyone had a mind like mine. They didn't want to use it either. So the toilet queue was going nearly out the door, and then
Yeah.
I I I I I go to the toilet the and then I've got my card. So I think everyone's looking at me like, why are you skipping the queue? No one said anything, but I had my card, so people didn't question me. So I was just waving it around, walking down the queue, and then I used it. But I do think those sort of cards should be made, um, I guess law, because like they aren't like people don't have to allow you to use their toilets if you have like a just waiting card.
I didn't know that. My thing is that I think that they should be advertised on telly and shown to people who wouldn't know what they are. Because in that situation, when you're waving that card, only other people with a chronic illness, the same one as you, would know what that card means. If I showed that card to anybody else that I knew, they would have no idea what that card means. So they would still, in their head, they're making assumptions about you, when actually, if they knew what that card meant, they would know straight away. Like, for example, the disabled badge. The disabled badge is like universally known as the disabled badge. Therefore, people who have one in the back of their car, you automatically know that that person has a disability. It should be the same with things like that card. because then other people will know what that card means. Because it's all well and good for you to have that card, but if somebody doesn't know what it means, the disrespect sometimes that you can experience from that, and the way that you could be made to feel, is that you probably felt like, oh gosh, I'm a little bit embarrassed to walk to the front, because even though I have this card, like, do you want to be approached or have to explain what that means? Not really. Like, oh sorry, here's my card because I have diarrhea. No one wants to do that. So it's
Yeah.
better if you just, other people know what that card means, and you don't feel like you're being judged by it. But issuing a card to us but not really showing it on tellies, or making it more like exposing people who don't have illnesses to it, is not very good, really.
Yeah, it's not really like I guess a lot of people feel the same. Like they like in the community that they feel it just needs to be shown more. Like you say, like a disabled badge, like in front of your car, and still some people do say to you for having a disabled badge, like why you parked in that space and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So it's very hard. But yeah, I do laugh back at that situation, but at the same time, like you do feel a bit like everyone's just staring at you and like overwhelmed.
it's really intimidating. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And like I know people like it's hard to like I did once. I went to London and I used a disabled toilet, and a person was in a wheelchair and I was in the toilet, and then they were saying, I think outside too, I think my parents, like, I'm in the wheelchair, I need to use the toilet. And like I guess undermine that I'm not disabled or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I went out and I think they just stared at me, and I didn't respond with anything because I didn't see the point. Like I know people in wheelchairs had the right, but it's which is why I like the way they've updated, like, because I think they call it an accessible toilet now, where like they have it on there, don't they? Like people who don't look like they're in the wheelchair as well.
Yeah, which is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like I think it's really good they've done that, because it just makes it more awareness of people who don't look like they have maybe a
Yeah.
chronic illness and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, in general, anyway, how many people who are disabled are in a wheelchair? Probably not many of the whole of the disabled community is not going to be in a wheelchair. The amount of disabilities people can have, which, hopefully being in a wheelchair is the last resort for a lot of them. And I think that that's the main thing. And you learn this when you go to your infusions and you hear all of the different things that everybody in there has got going on. The lady I was sat next to the other day, she had MS, and it's very debilitating for her. She is quite significantly disabled, and she doesn't have a wheelchair yet, and she's hoping that she won't need one for a while.
Yeah,
But of course, she needs to use a disabled toilet. For one, she can't really be standing for a very long time. Same with anybody that's got Crohn's or colitis. You really can't be. Your energy levels are so low, especially when you're not absorbing much nutrients from your food. You can't be standing around for a long time in a queue. And the idea that it's a privilege to be able to skip the queue at that point is absolutely barbaric, because of course we would rather have the ability to be able to stand in a queue and have the energy like you do and no urgency to use the toilet. Like, of course we wish that we could do that, but we can't.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree. Like it's really important that we have the like we're able to use the toilet like
Yeah.
as we do, because it is very important. Like
Yeah.
we have to do that. But Katie, before we finish, is there, I guess, any advice that you want to give other people with Crohn's?
Yeah, I would. I would say that probably the majority of people already are part of the community if they have Crohn's disease. But my advice, really, for anybody who's still in that phase of not really knowing what's wrong with them, and they don't know if it's Crohn's or not, because it doesn't matter if it is or not, still come to the community and still reach out to people for help. Because I if you don't, then and you end up secluding yourself, it's extremely lonely, and there's no need for it. Whether it turns out that you have IBS or something like that, it's not IBD, no, but it is still something quite debilitating, and something that you're more than welcome to still be a part of the community and talk to us about how you feel, because we can really, we can sympathize and empathize with a lot of your symptoms. So I would say to anybody who's dealing with things like that or anxiety or depression, still come to people in the community, because dealing with a chronic illness is one
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's really important to raise awareness of like IBD, and like I think it's something in the IBD community as well that I've spoken about, like IBS, that like we have to. It's important to notify the difference between them, because IBS isn't like I've heard it spoken to me before. Like people say IBS is the same as IBD, but it's definitely not. But it's really good that we say about that.
And there's a lot of reasons, therefore, that they wouldn't be able to really, sympathize and empathize with us and with a lot of symptoms, because they are very different. But a lot of their symptoms are we would be able to empathize with. So luckily enough, we're still a nice open space for them to come to. And I feel like, you can't compare the two. Absolutely not. They're very different. But we can still help out each other, I feel.
Definitely. Well, I completely agree. And really good advice. It's been really nice speaking to you, Katie, because I hope you've enjoyed it. Like,
I have.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being on.
Thank you. It's been really really good fun. And to anyone watching or listening, we hope you've enjoyed it. Today. It's been really good fun, and yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime, Katie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Katie.
Thank you.